What's good, family? Shout out to the boss man, Karan Shaota, for keeping your man the YB coin boosted. Oh my god, we got some Pikachu news right now. Yeah, what I tell you? Oops. Yeah, I'm so glad I made a video 1 or 2 days ago exposing Eddie Hearn and exposing Team Bivol. Yeah, Team Bumall. 100%. I told them what was going to happen. I don't know. And Team Bivol, I'm not even sure they're bothered. I think Bivol actually likes fighting the least rewarded fights. That's what I think he likes. The only conclusion we can make here is that Bivol loves fighting these random ones. Yeah, like Craig Richards and Buatsi. He loves them. That's the only conclusion we can take. Anyway, here we go. Eddie Hearn. We've made an offer for Joshua Buatsi to fight Dmitry Bivol. How did we get here, people? Canelo just smoked the pound for pound #1 greatest fighter of all time, Canelo, not even 2 months ago. You man don't understand how hot Bivol was. How do you go from being that red hot, the first man ever to beat the prime, greatest of all time 168 pounder? You have that in the palm of your hand. You have the rematch at 168 for undisputed in the palm of your hand. And what do you do with it? You sit there, don't say anything for 2 months, and Eddie Hearn throws you Buatsi. What the fuck? How do you go from a Canelo 168 undisputed rematch to Buatsi? Fuck. There's no money. There's no belts. It's all risk. I think Bivol will deal with Buatsi, but still, it's all risk, isn't it? You get paid peanuts as well. What has his management team been doing? Management teams are supposed to value add. Yeah? I'm not being funny. If there was a fight Bivol could make with no management, this would be one, wouldn't it? After May 10th, or whenever it was that Canelo fought Bivol, lost to Bivol, yeah? If I told you Bivol versus Buatsi was next, what would you say? Most people would have said, get out of here, there's no way. It's going to be the undisputed, or it's going to be Canelo rematch. Both obviously huge fights. What clown managed their client into this position? Because I've been told you, man, Eddie Hearn's plan. This was an obvious play. Yeah? Eddie Hearn wants Bivol to lose. That does him a massive favour. That means Canelo is now free. Canelo can say, well, he lost now and it's all changed. And it also means Eddie Hearn gets his big star in Buatsi, who'd have invested a lot of money. And obviously Buatsi is a lot more marketable than Bivol, especially in these times where where the whole Rusky thing's a bit, it's a bit edgy. The whole Rusky situation. Yeah, the last thing Eddie Hearn really wants is a Rusky champion right now. But that's Eddie Hearn. The crazy thing is, after Bivol beat Canelo, Bivol even said, oh, Eddie Hearn, I've ruined your plans. Well, no, you haven't, Bivol, because you didn't follow up. So Bivol already knew that there was powers going against him. And I warned Team Bivol, I said, do not sit back and be cuckolded by Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is not going to want you to go in there and smoke Canelo's pack again. But it needs to be your duty to stay on, keep the public involved in this rematch. Instead, as I mentioned in the video yesterday, Bivol disappeared. We haven't actually heard from Bivol in 2 months. Yeah, he went from being the most red-hot athlete, certainly the most red-hot boxer in the game, breakout athlete, and did nothing with it. And now they've flipped. How do you go from beating Canelo, greatest fighter of the generation, you beat him, and you end up in the UK fighting a dude with no belt? And what management? Again, like I said, there's certain plays, there's certain value that managers are supposed to add. This was an anti-management play. Bivol, speaking no English, could have pulled this one off. Yeah, Buatsi versus Bivol is the kind of play that gets made when you don't have any team and you have no influence. And let's be real now. Like I said, after Bivol beat Canelo, if there was one fight out there where you'd say this Bivol fighting this guy next would mean that there's been absolutely no influence from Bivol's side, this would be it, wouldn't it? There's relatively quite a lot of risk, and there's absolutely scrap all reward. You get nothing. You don't get a belt, you don't get big pay, you don't get big clout. You get nothing. And the Canelo rematch was there. Massive pay, massive clout, massive belts, massive... the whole lot was maxed out. And fair enough, yeah. For example, if I was managing Bivol, yeah, what we would have done, from fight night onwards, we would have been putting videos out, essentially harassing Canelo, telling him, Canelo, we've popped your cherry, you said your Cinco de Mayo, we've got your Cinco de Mayo cherry, yeah, we popped your virginity, we popped your prime virginity, don't run off and fight old Lofkin, don't duck, because obviously, if your opponent who's just beat you, yeah, every day is out there in social media telling people he's gonna duck, imagine how, it would have been almost impossible, wouldn't it? It's a bit like the first Golovkin fight. I remember when Canelo beat Golovkin the first time, Golovkin was in the media constantly saying Canelo's going to run off and whatever else. And at the time, it was a bit dodgy, to be fair. He wasn't. People don't forget. Go back and look at the history. The rematch wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't guaranteed until Golovkin kept on. In fact, the public opinion was after the first fight was that Canelo was going to duck the rematch. That's the public opinion. And Golovkin was echoing that. And that actually, when you watch the second fight, press build-up, or the press conference build-up, Canelo even says, I'm coming to shut this guy up. Yeah? That's how you provoke a rematch. Great play by Triple G. Whether intentional or not, that's how you get the biggest fight of your life. The playbook of how not to do that and how to end up in the UK fighting some Buatsi dude. No profile. There's no upside whatsoever. There's none. No upside whatsoever. All risk. You go from being the biggest breakout athlete of the last 10 years in boxing. That's honestly, give me a fighter, yeah, who's had a bigger win in the last 10 years. He was a 6-1, or I think at the time, yeah, he was a 8-1 underdog at the time. At the peak. He was 8-1 underdog. Yeah? He beat the most skilled, most prime, hottest boxer in the last 10 years. Yeah, this was pretty much as close to beating Mayweather as we can ever expect. Much bigger than the AJ loss, because Canelo's actually got Canelo allegedly had all the skills and all the perfect technique and everything else. AJ was always a bit rusty in that sense. Leaky defense, etc., etc. Canelo, Mexican style and a whole lot of it, everything, all of his stats were maxed out, and he got beat. And what did his team do with that? Nothing. And he's going into the Buatsi fight now. How did we get here? If Bivol has a team, and that's why ultimately I believe that Bivol's team are cover agents for Eddie Hearn. Yeah, don't forget the relationship with Bivol and Team Hearn is already convoluted. Yeah, going into the fight with Bivol and Canelo, Eddie Hearn was representing Canelo and Bivol was represented by Matchroom but by Frank Smith. So it's all incestuous. Yes, Bivol allegedly has his own independent management team. Frank Smith is a promoter. Yeah, Bivol has his own management team. Where was they at though? Yeah, if you tell me Bivol had a management team, tell me in the last 2 months what they've done. Yeah, because of all the potential options, like I said, these are the potential options. To be honest with you, do nothing, do nothing, fight Canelo, fight Beterbiev, fight Buatsi. There's the 4 options. This is the worst one, truth be known, the worst one. Yeah, I guess you could say, well, YB, it's a stay active fight. Okay, for staying active's sake, fine, but still. How did you not go for the Beterbiev fight? Or the Canelo rematch? How did you not do that? How did you not? And the problem is, you see, well, the thing is, we can't guarantee anything in life. There's nothing to say. Maybe if Bivol, yeah, had to put videos out every couple of days, trolling and pressuring Canelo, maybe Canelo would have ducked anyway. But still, at least try. That's what good management would at least try. You know what? Good management, yeah, would have sat down with Bivol after the fight and told him these are the 4 options. Buatsi, Beterbiev, Canelo. Strategically, the Canelo rematch made the most sense. And I was saying, immediately after the fight, I was the one saying, Bivol, yeah, has the extremely rare opportunity to go double undisputed, back to back. The champ, the undisputed. He could have potentially beat Canelo at 168 and then gone straight back up and fought Beterbiev for undisputed. Why didn't that become a thing? Now you can almost forget about it. You can forget about that now. Why wasn't that? Why weren't people trying to... Imagine the fanfare behind that. But Bivol beats Canelo at 168 and then goes up to one. Imagine that. It's huge buzz would be around that. It's not even close to being done by anyone else. That was on a plate. Instead, we've got Buatsi. I mean, it's not a bad fight, but bad fights are relative to your options. Yeah, if Bivol hadn't have fought Canelo, then this would be just another title defense. But he had that Canelo rematch on a plate, and in my opinion, he's blown it. I don't think Canelo will ever go back now, because if you don't go, think about it. When AJ lost, you go straight back there, don't you? Yeah. Or even when Canelo had a controversial shot against Golovkin, you go straight back. You don't fanny around, and in the meantime, I don't understand that play at all. Don't make no sense in my opinion. That's what he's doing. And I believe Team Hearn and infidels, Bivol's management team, have been infiltrated by infidels. And Eddie Hearn told them, listen, Bivol, keep him quiet and we're going to give him some crap fight against Buatsi. Yeah, keep him quiet and keep him distracted. That's what's happened here, I'm sorry. Because no good management would tell him, after being the hottest fighter in the last 10 years, the most breakout fighter in the last 10 years, no one would tell that man, you're going to fight Buatsi next. It makes no sense whatsoever. And God forbid, I don't think he will, but God forbid he loses the fight. Imagine, yeah, if Bivol now loses against Buatsi. His career is essentially over. I thought the whole point of the boxing business game is to maximise revenue and maximise clout. Canelo at 168 was absolutely colossal. You'd have been able to fight the pound for pound best, greatest of all time with no excuses in there. Bearing in mind as well, I mean, there was heaps of content Team Bivol could have been putting out. Yeah, I'd have made a video of Canelo after the fight saying, the weight was too much, and then saying, no worries, we'll come down to 168 and fight for all the belts, fight for all your belts done. Bear in mind, people, Bivol's already said he's happy to go to 168. Oops, where was that? Why wasn't that put out there as a narrative immediately after the fight? Or at all? It's been 2 months, we haven't heard nothing about that, we've heard nothing about no pressure, no nothing. And now Eddie Hearn's out here trying to spin this. It's shocking. And I get it from Buatsi's point of view. I mean, from Bivol's point of view, he's a fighter. He don't care who he fights. But that's why I'm so not even baffled. We know what it is. In my opinion, it's straight out corruption. Bivol's team have been infiltrated by Eddie Hearn. And so one way or another, they've been lulled to sleep and or paid off and told, listen, we'll give you 500 grand, we'll give you $1 million. Because to Eddie Hearn, Canelo not being topped twice is worth tens of millions. Literally. If Bivol tops Canelo twice, that is worth tens of millions to Eddie Hearn. Yeah? So they want to, Eddie Hearn, as he's already doing, moving Canelo as far away from Bivol as he can. Meanwhile, Bivol just in it, in the sticks, in the thick of it, on the front line, doing, you know what I mean, fighting all the newcomers. It's honestly baffling. This is the equivalent, you know, like, for example, Canelo, I believe, when Bivol beat Canelo, he should have been in Canelo's position. What does Canelo do? Canelo fights all the best champions. That's the position I believe Bivol should have been in. Okay, I'm top of the heap now. I fight champions. When was the last time you heard of Canelo, yeah, fighting some random challenger with no belt? When was it? You just don't hear it, do you? When was it? Go on, tell me. Tell me the last time you heard Canelo fighting some random challenger who has done nothing. Yeah? Buatsi, he's alright as a person, yeah, but what has he done? He don't have a belt and he ain't done nothing. Fair enough, yeah. Let's say Buatsi had fought Anthony Yard and beat him. At least you can say, well, he's beat a top 5 guy. Boazzi beat no one, don't have no belt. And that's what they're serving up for the top guy, the top breakout guy. No one to blame but himself, though. And like I said, I don't even think Bivol cares. Bivol's probably a real fighting guy. He just wants to fight, but it's a shame for the boxing environment. It's a shame for the boxing culture. Because just imagine for a second, right now we were looking forward to Bivol vs Canelo rematch at 168 for all the belts. Imagine that. Imagine the power of that. You can forget about that. That's never going to happen. And then imagine if Bivol beat Canelo at 168, he then goes immediately into the undisputed. Imagine that. Crazy value, crazy clout. Instead, we've got Bivol versus Boazzi. Oh my. That fight ain't going nowhere, is it? Let's be real. Where does it lead to? It don't get you no more belts. It don't get you no more clout. It don't get you no more coin. Boazzi to Bivol is any man. He could be anyone. Realistically speaking, it could be anyone. Awful play. Anyway, before I go, let's read out the quotes. I forgot to do it earlier. Eddie Hearn said here we go. We want Boazzi to fight Bivol. We've made an offer to Boazzi to fight Bivol, which we want to make sure he's happy with, and hopefully we can make this fight. It's not done yet, it's not signed, but we're seeing if we can make the numbers work. So actually, look, we've made an offer to Boazzi to fight Bivol, so that means if they're sending an offer to Boazzi, that means that it's Team Bivol sending the offer. Yeah? I thought at least it'd be the other way, and this shows you how corrupt it really is for Team Bivol. It shows you how infiltrated Team Bivol really are. Because look, how can it be that Team Bivol are essentially requesting this fight? I thought at least it would be, okay, Team Boazzi have sent an offer to Bivol. No. We want to make sure Boazzi's happy with it. What? We want to make sure Bivol's happy with it. Again, just more evidence that Bivol's been completely shafted. We want to make sure Boazzi's completely happy. What? Boazzi is any man. Bivol's the big clout dude, or should be. It's all back to front, but Bivol, his management team, completely mugged themselves off, and they got no one to blame but themselves. Shocker. It's bad all round for everyone involved.